Guys, welcome to the I Love C-Ville show. My name is Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you on a Thursday. We're live in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love C-Ville network. We have a phenomenal program lined up for you on a gorgeous, phenomenal day to be alive. We have the markets turning the corner a little bit after yesterday's sell-offs. Yes, we have corona cases spiking across the country, which is creating uncertainty. Certainly as Texas slows down its reopening, and as Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, just to name a few, see spikes. Houston quickly becoming the new New York City, following that very closely. Certainly Wall Street and Main Street is. From a local level, a lot we're going to cover. We'll cover the protests from Sunday, and as the world turns in Charlottesville, we'll have the perspective from the old school activists in Charlottesville and what they think the new school is doing in this community and whether it's working or not. When you have people that are in the game for 40 years and they have their opinion of what they say of what today's protesters are doing, folks, we listen. We're going to talk more media layoffs, this time with Charlottesville Radio Group. Saga Communications, the parent company of Charlottesville Radio Group, home to Z95, 106.1 The Corner, 1070 WINA, 97.5 3WV. Last week, we told you about the demise, the destruction, the internal implosion of the Big Greasy Breakfast. Today, we know a little bit more. I'm going to ask you what the Charlottesville and Central Virginia wedding season is going to look like in 2021. Barbara Lundgren on her show, the Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase, that airs at 10:15 a.m. on this network. She welcomed two incredible people, two talented people, two innovative people, and Cindy Shortbread of Keswick Vineyards and Frank Smith, a fabulous entertainer and DJ in the wedding space. And we had the conversation of what's coming up. Both Frank and Cindy offered their perspective, and it got us at this network thinking about 2021, the possibilities for Sunday or Thursday weddings, about 2021, the possibility of two weddings on one day. Maybe we see Saturdays and Sundays become double weddings. There's a lot of innovation and outside-the-box thinking that's happening. We'll take a look at that on the I Love C-Ville show. I encourage you guys to like and share the program. If you have comments that you'd like to relay, put them in the comment section of any of these 12 Facebook pages, and I will relay those comments on air. We'll welcome Judah Wickower. Judah, let's get you to say hello. Today's show, I think you're very excited about, my friend, as we're welcoming Anwar Allen to the program. Hello, Judah. Certainly a friend of yours, Anwar.
Yes, Anwar is a great guy. I've been friends with him and gone to church with him for quite a while, and I can't speak highly enough about him.
Allen's Scottish Shortbreads, the brand that Anwar manages with his family and runs, also an entrepreneur and a leader in the community. He's going to join us in about 18 minutes on this program. We're an advertising agency. We represent about 112 clients from New Providence, New Jersey to Asheville, North Carolina. Our heart and our headquarters and our home are here in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We love working alongside small businesses. 12 years we've been doing this early on. Had a lot of exhilaration and adrenaline working alongside businesses that were starting up. Now 12 years in, work alongside not only businesses like that, but incredibly established generational type of companies that are making the community better. And I'd like to highlight two of them. Interstate Pest and Service Companies. This family is doing commerce and business the right way in our community. They're focused on the client and they're focused on their team members. And they're mindful of honesty and integrity and safety. And at this time in 2020, when you have a team mindful of honest safety, integrity, and doing things the right way, that goes a long way. That's Interstate Pest and Service Companies. And Dr. Wagner, the same. I mean, it's physical therapy, it's chiropractic care, it's sports medicine, it's Dr. Wagner and his team changing people's lives. Now, on this program, we're honest. We are cautiously optimistic in everything we do with life. We're unafraid to take risk, and we offer our opinion. And you can choose to agree or disagree, but we're always going to offer our opinion and what's on our minds. And I've been following the protests closely here on this program. Sunday, I said it was the first strategic error the protesters made in 4 straight weeks, vandalizing the city of Charlottesville, the streets, vandalizing police department, and heckling and harassing paying customers at private businesses on the downtown mall on Father's Day. We said that on Monday on this program. Caught some flack. Now that we've had a few days to digest it, the community as well. Turns out a lot of people feel the same way. Turns out a lot of people in the activists, the African American activist community, feel the same way. We'll hear from them. The $19,000 plus tax bill the city provided to the media through Freedom of Information requests outlines how the money was shifted and allocated. I told you yesterday, I said the city of Charlottesville is trying to play a shell game. The city of Charlottesville is trying to play a chess match strategy game. And the city of Charlottesville is going to say this bill to clean up for these protesters on Sunday is $19,000. And I said yesterday that's bogus, that's BS, that's not true. I said the city is trying to influence the community to feel a sense of anger or dismay or frustration with protesters. Because if the popular vote starts turning against the protesting action, then the protesting action becomes splintered, has less momentum, less popularity, and eventually wears off. I held the protesters accountable. I said you should not ever heckle private customers at private businesses on Father's Day or vandalize city streets and city property. That's a no-no. But I also held the city accountable. And when you look at the receipt for the bill, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I mean, this is why you watch this program. $19,000+. Judah, can we get the table on screen? Look at the screen. Give me a thumbs up when it's on screen, my friend. It's on screen. Look at the screen. This is the value of watching the video aspect of the show. So $19,638 bill from the city of Charlottesville to clean up Sunday's protests. Well, boys and girls. Well, smart people that watch this program. Well, guys that use cautious optimism and just use common sense. Of that $19,630, $15,191, yes, I said $15,191, it should come back to me, Judah, is earmarked or allocated for a mill and pave contractor for later this fall. So when they released the bill, guys, and they said it costs $19,000 to clean up after these protesters, over $15,000 of it was for project that's earmarked this fall, money that has not been spent. So the city of Charlottesville, when it went, it's playing a poker game right now with its citizens. And it's Jerry, the citizens, against the city of Charlottesville. And we go the flop, right? And I have a king of hearts and a nine of spades, okay, in the hole. And the flop comes, and the city thinks by releasing a $19,000 tax bill, the city thinks it has its pocket aces are gonna win this hand, no problem. The flop comes, and you know what? You see a king on the board. I get a little excited. I stay in the hand because I think the city might be bluffing here. And then we see the turn, and we see the river, and guess what happened? I got a full house versus the pocket aces. The bluff was called by a number of people, including this network, including City Planning Commissioner Rory Stolzenberg, who I think is doing some interesting things on Twitter right now. And we realized that 19,000 was BS and 15 is just earmarked for stuff down the road. And the second thing we realized was over $4,000 of it was for in-house expenses. In-house expenses means using your own people and your own trucks. Really, this cost the city like $900. But it wanted to give the perception that the protests were creating damage and was impacting us from a tax dollar standpoint. And if that happened, it could potentially splinter the momentum. Now, I also said protesters should be held accountable because what they were doing when they were challenging paying customers at private businesses on the downtown mall on Father's Day, I said that's gauche. I said that's gauche. I said that's BS. I said that's Why kick somebody when they're already down and they're trying to get back up? And that's like all small business owners. Why do that? Let's hear from the community, Judah. We're going to try something new here. As CBS 19 has done a really good job of covering this story. CBS 19 interviewed activists Katrina Turner and Rosia Parker. This is on CBS 19. I'm going to play the audio from the interview, okay? Just where we hear from Katrina and Rosia and hear what they have to say about this young, new-aged, early 20 protester that is across the country. Here's the audio, Judah. Oh, you're not hearing it? Okay, let's do that. That's my fault. That's totally my fault, not your fault. I had my earplugs in. Let me hear it one more time. I got the mark here. This is live programming at its finest. We'll replay it again. That's totally my fault, Judah. All right, here we go.
Downtown mall and vandalized Market Street with graffiti in front of the police department.
The people who did this on Sunday feel that they're fighting for all black and brown people, but they're not. They have really angered a lot of black and brown people in this community by doing what they're doing.
According to a cost breakdown provided by the city of Charlottesville in response to a FOIA request from CBS 19, the total amount it took the city to clean the graffiti was over $19,600. That includes the trucks and employees that were paid for by the hour to do the job, as well as other equipment.
We need that money in this community to do everything possible that we can do to be able to change things. My main thing is I want to use that money for the CRB. I want to use that money for my youth here. Our youth are not being taken care of in Charlottesville as well as they should be, and especially our black and brown children.
Turner says the people who did...
Okay, all right, so let's go back to me. So I couldn't agree more. And in fact, I think we said this, the money should be better spent for youth and allocated for the police review board, should be allocated to other things as opposed to cleanup. Now, what CBS 19 did not tell you, I'll give you props, CBS 19, for covering the story. Give you props. Job well done. What they did not tell you was of that 19K, over 15,000 is earmarked for a project in the fall. So that's the difference with just digging into the story and having a little bit of seasoning, a little bit more seasoning with your reporting skill set. All right, let's go to the next story. And this one, I think, is something that I need to follow very closely, and I think that you should follow very closely, and it's about Judah Wickhauer, what we saw on the show this morning. Barbara Lundgren has a phenomenal show on Thursdays on this network called the Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase. And we had Cindy Shortbread and we had Frank Smith on this program. And Cindy is the owner with Al of Keswick Vineyards, one of our favorites, undoubtedly in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We live around the corner now from them. It's just a fabulous place, great wine, chill vibes, cool spot, especially if you have a kid. I mean, they got some land, it's outdoors, it's safe, it's just a legit chill vibes, cool spot. Again, especially if you have a kid and he's 2 and you're in the thick and you're just trying to maintain your sanity and you can have a little bit of wine be outside and watch your kid be happy, and mama's happy, so daddy's happy. And I'm not speaking from personal experience, I swear. So we were talking on Barbara's show about what is 2021 going to look like. And Frank, who I was so impressed, and that was literally the first time I talked to Frank. Had a chance to talk to Cindy before, know Al much better. He's had come on the show multiple times. But I'm sitting here and I'm like, gosh, I'm literally learning from one of the best DJs in the space, in Frank Smith. I'm literally learning from Cindy, one of the owner of one of the best brands in the space in Keswick Vineyards. And then Barbara Lundgren is next to me, and she's the fairy godmother. So we get to talking about what does 2021 look like. And it was crazy because the businessman in me and the entrepreneur man in me and the guy who's trying to see ahead of the game, and whether it's stock trading or whether it's real estate investing or whether it's managing a B2B client services business, staying ahead of the game and looking down the road is a critical component for success. So we get to talking in 2021, and Judah, I want to get Frank's sizzle reel first, then we'll go to Cindy's. So we get to talking, and Frank has done a wedding. He just did, I think it was roughly a 50-person Frank Smith wedding, where he was the DJ, and there are about 50 people there, and he was relaying his perspective of what he saw at this wedding. And we got to talking, what will the 2021 Charlottesville and Central Virginia wedding market look like? And as we head into this sizzle reel, I want you to start thinking, maybe it starts thinking Thursday and more Sunday weddings, maybe some Friday weddings. I'm getting messages from vendors now that are saying, Jerry, don't be surprised if you see the back-to-back wedding on the same day, because demand is going to be so through the roof, because all these did not happen in 2020, that demand's going to be big time in 2021. So how's that going to impact us? I'm going to give you my take after we hear from Frank Smith. Judah, you got that sizzle reel? You got that sound ready to go? Yeah. All right, let's play Frank Smith in 3, 2, and 1.
Frank, you had an event this past weekend, so you're one of the first of us to get out there, and it was a 50-ish person event, so tell us how that went. Tell us what you can tell us.
How'd it go, Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, so far, it went pretty well. The venue that I was at had everything spaced out really well. The ceremony was, of course, outside, which is a staple here in our area. People wanting their ceremony outdoors. So they had plenty of extra seating outside for the ceremony to keep everybody spread out well. They actually had me significantly off to the side, which was great. Of course, there was a lot of rain that day, so I needed to be in coverage for my equipment. But overall, that went really well. And then transitioning over into the reception area, I felt like they did a good job of spacing tables. They were very aware of trying to put family units together. So they had some extra tables where I think they could have normally fit, they could have fit more people at one table, but they chose to, keep them spread out. The catering staff there was excellent. They had a buffet line where they served the client or the customer, the person at the guest at the wedding, passing the plate down the buffet line with the servers. So at no point did the client or the guest touch the plate until it got to the end. Dance floor was interesting for me because I didn't know what to expect, of course. When you're looking at a smaller wedding, you never know what's going to happen with the dance floor. So they were really active. They were really into it. With less tables, they were able to be spread out a little bit more. But ultimately, people wanted to have a good time. And so they got out there and they danced.
So you're saying they got after it, Frank. You're saying they got pretty close, right? You're saying there was no room for the Holy Spirit, is what you're saying. No room for the Holy Spirit. And you know what? I'm in a lot of professional development groups for DJs across America and states that are opening, events that are happening. The pictures that are going up are all very similar. I think everybody's been cooped in for 3 months, and they're ready to have a good time, and they feel safe because these are family and friends. They aren't, it's not going to a bar or a restaurant and dancing with a bunch of random people around you. These are people they're comfortable with. So he's one of the first, in Frank, in the area to go through a wedding in the Charlottesville area. one of the first go-to vendors in the industry to go through a wedding. So I relayed that sound to you guys because I thought it was important to hear from someone on the first line, the line of defense, right there about what he experienced. And I took it as positive. Now, let's cut to the chase. You're going to have family and friends in one spot, and you're going to have some adult beverages, and you're going to have a reason to celebrate in a wedding. People are going to get, there's going to be no room for the Holy Spirit. People are going to get after it. So that is like, I think that, you know how we talk about consumer confidence? And consumer confidence may apply to the housing category. And we have to create consumer confidence because there are buyers and sellers for you to be able to trade your house. We need to create consumer confidence for someone to go to like a vineyard or a winery or a restaurant by showcasing that the vineyard, the winery, or the restaurant is being very attentive to safety and health protocols. When you're three-notched, and Three-Notch was one of the first ones to open brewery-wise in the city of Charlottesville, and the president of the company, Scott Roth, goes on social media, and Scott of Three-Notch rarely goes on social media. It's usually Dave Warwick, who's the brand ambassador. And when Scott Roth, the president of Three-Notch, goes on social media and says, this is what we're going to do to create a safe environment for you, then you start getting consumer confidence from beer lovers and food lovers that have pent-up demand and want to go places. So from a wedding standpoint, Barbara said this so well. Here's the crossroads that we're at. The planner, the DJ, the venue, the lights, everyone involved is going to be focused on safety and making sure this thing is done the right way. And we can get you all the way there, and the finish line and the goal line is the dance floor. Because when you have a bunch of people having a good time for a good cause and someone getting married and some adult beverages and people who haven't seen each other in a long time and they've been stuck and pent up and in one spot for a long period of time, you're going to get people dancing. So from my standpoint, this is where the consumer confidence crossroads lies in the wedding industry. From a housing standpoint is you can safely list and sell your house through virtual tours. The consumer crossroads in restaurants is what Scott Roth did at Three-Notch. We are so safe here, social distancing of tables, cleanliness, we're doing this, this, and that. There's the crossroads, he's managing it. The consumer confidence with weddings is we are going to do everything humanly possible to keep you safe. And then we're going to get you to the dance floor, and you guys can go from there. But if the industry does everything possible to keep them safe, it's going to rebound. And we'll continue this discussion after we hear from Anwar Allen. We'll catch sound from Cindy Shortbread on 2 different occasions. She's the owner of Keswick Vineyards from the show earlier today. And we will discuss not only 2021, we'll discuss the crossroads of consumer confidence and how Keswick is creating a safe environment. I've seen firsthand how safe that environment is. And we'll see how the family and this family business has transitioned in a COVID-19 landscape. I want to get to Anwar Allen first. And this guy, a leader in the community, an entrepreneur, a family man. I'm going to reach out to him now, Judah. I saw him walking the Charlottesville downtown mall with his daughter, had a conversation. Judah, our director, is friends with him. And here we are on the I Love C-Ville show. His brand, Allen's Scottish Shortbreads. I'm very excited to welcome him to the program. Judah, we have Anwar on the line. Give me a thumbs up if we can get him on the program. All right, thank you, Judah Woodcower. All right, you are live, Anwar. Thank you kindly for joining us. How are you? And introduce yourself to quite a lot of people watching you right now.
Hello. I think I heard some of my name and some of the business, but it's a local business, Allen's Scottish Shortbread. It's actually my last name. So my full name is Anwar Allen, but it's not my recipe. It's my wife's grandmother's recipe, who happens to be Scottish, hailing from Glasgow, Scotland.
Cool. What's the family like? Give us an insight into the family.
I'm not sure if you've ever seen, I don't know if you can pop up graphics or you guys can look online. There's 5 bunnies on our boxes right now. And our boxes are everywhere in Charlottesville and all over the web, in various spots, obviously our website. And we have 5 bunnies in our family. So I'm the big bunny. And then my wife is also there, and most of the boxes is holding a baby bunny. And now we have 3 babies. I have one here. I have a little box here. You might be able to see that. That's and so this is our box that's actually at Whole Foods. And this is in Whole Foods up and down the East Coast, all the way up to Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and obviously in all the Virginia, D.C.
That's
Maryland
awesome,
area.
dude. Let me throw this to you here. How does this happen? How do you get the idea, I'm going to start a shortbread company, I'm going to distribute a shortbread company through Whole Food shelves up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and I'm going to do this incredibly successfully as a family business? I mean, that's quite a success story right there. I mean, can you give us an insight?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first part of it was with any business. You talk to anybody who's been on your show or anything like that. They might have an idea. They might have had an idea to do it back in the day. When I met my wife at UVA many years ago, I remember coming into her dorm room and seeing a box of shortbread on her shelf. I asked her about it, and she says, essentially my family made shortbread back in the day, and I said, well, that sounds cool, and maybe we could work with them one day. And, we finished school. We had a kid. We started another business where we met at one point in time, and I was doing digital media, building websites. But when you have kids, you do business, you have to have parameters. You have to have time and space to actually do the thing which is important, which is have a family, have relationships. And we started to see where that type of business was just not going to.
Oh, it's brutal. So brutal. I know firsthand. 70 hours a week. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's tough. And so we said to ourselves, what's something else we can do? We had thought about the shortbread business, but it kind of happened. It just happened all at once. Her grandmother comes down to visit with us. We're at like a church potluck or something like that, and somebody happens to be selling a mixer. Yeah, and her grandmother hears it, and she says, and she knows our situation, how we're both working the first business. We're doing weddings. We're doing weddings at Boar's Head, all over the place, and we're having to get babysitters, and we're missing Saturdays and Sundays. And so she's saying to herself, all right, they need to start the business. So one day she buys the mixer from this lady. She throws down money on to help us find a bakery kitchen share. That week, it's almost like everything happened miraculously. We find a little kitchen share. We were sharing with the Pie Guy at the time. I'm not sure if you know those guys, and they're local. And so we were there for a couple years. Started doing some markets, and it was like every time we baked, we couldn't. We sold everything at the Wednesday market, Thursday market, Saturday market. We couldn't keep it in stock. And then coffee shops started saying, hey, you want to be here? And obviously, at that time, Whole Foods used to have local liaisons. They don't have it anymore, but they used to have people going to markets and stuff like that and trying to figure out who could be in the stores, who could have a presence, and who could actually sell on their shelves. And so it took months to get into Whole Foods, but that was that Shenandoah Joe's, C-Ville Coffee, Virginia Shop, Happy Cook. Those are like some of the biggest, nations. I told Jenny there, she's been the manager there for years. I said, look, I will sit here every day and hand out samples. Awesome. And our first Christmas in business, we just sold. So I was in there every day. We were baking. I was up till 2 a.m. some nights, baking, wake up, go to a market, go to Foods All Nations. It was crazy. And my daughter would be out there with me too. My oldest daughter, she's 12 now. So it definitely was it was a family affair.
I can speak to this. I saw Anwar and his daughter last week on the mall delivering product. And Anwar was walking with no empty hands. And I look at his 12-year-old daughter, and she had 16 boxes in her hands. And I was like, what's going on? I'm just joking. That's not how it was. But they were delivering product. So I got to ask you this question, dude. So you and your wife, did you guys meet because of Shortbread? Did you guys fall in love because of Shortbread? How did you meet her? Did you charm her? Because you're a charming guy.
You know what? That's a funny thing. She actually has the gift of she's a charmer herself. So and she's got a gift of sales. So and actually I met her family. I loved them. They, honestly, I was gonna quit school and work at the family business. They also had a horse farm up there in New York. So I think it goes both ways. I think we both even back then in college, we kind of understood that we had some qualities that we liked about each other. It was, we were out of the box, and I think anybody that's an entrepreneur, they're kind of wacky a little bit. You're an entrepreneur too, so you're juggling a lot of things, So you understand the psyche of somebody who would quit a job. First off, started, you know what I'm saying?
It's nuts.
It's nuts, but it's something you do have to be in that mode. I guess backstory is her family, they're immigrants. My family are immigrants. They had a business. My parents had businesses. So it was always something in the back of our head that at some point in time we would do something together. We just didn't know
Immigrants from where?
So her family's obviously half Scottish and Italian, actually. Yep, and then my parents are from Aruba.
Awesome. So so much I want to cover with you here. You built a successful brand. You got entrepreneurship in your blood. It's a family business. And Alan's Scottish Shortbreads. How about the concept of now more than ever, Anwar, of launching a business and empowering oneself through the freedom of speech and the hard work that comes from being a business owner. I feel like what's missing in so many different communities is a mindset of let's go out and create it ourselves. I'm sure you've given a lot of thought to this. Your thoughts?
I think creating something at first, I think you got to have there's examples out there. I think every time, like a friend of mine, our kids went to school together, and he had a business that was, I think it was $1 billion business. I don't know what his numbers were, but it was a big business. And I would float ideas by him, and he would say, look, this sounds like a good idea. This sounds like something that's viable. And let me tell you about my story. Let me tell you about some things I went through. And I think that's why Charlottesville, I tell people all the time, whether I'm up in D.C. doing stuff, it's the best place to start a business because there's so many examples of what's been done, what's possible, and you have the story, you have backstories of what can happen if you stick it out, if you go through the tough
times. Such as?
Man, there's times where you're like, okay, if I pay this bill, if I pay for these materials, I have to have X amount of dollars to do that, and then I can spend that to then spit out enough money to go to the market. You know what I'm saying? It was just like little things like that. Like we would be trusting that, okay, if we spent this money and we put in the hard work, that the markets would pay off for us, and that people would latch onto the product. They'd support local. Charlottesville always supports local. And then that would then propel the next move, which is, okay, we had to bake for the market, make money to then get a bigger inventory, then sell to Whole Foods. It was like little stuff like that. And we didn't start with the whole Eastern board.
One store, right?
It was three. It was one Whole Foods store at a time, but we knew, if there's a door open, then you have to just step into it. And take the chance, and we took that first chance, and then every door opened up another one. People don't know, but when you're in Whole Foods, you get the opportunity to sell to all the stores, but you're not automatically.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So it means that we had to build relationships with, and that's the most important part with businesses, is we had to build relationships with these other business, these managers that were in Fairfax, there's a grocery team manager. the one up in Pennsylvania, there's a different in Jersey. It's the same. There are managers that are ahead and heading up their local departments, heading up their grocery aisles, making sure that what's there is for the people that are there. You can't find the same product with all the stores unless you get planogram, which means that there's a subset of products that are on all the shelves in the Mid-Atlantic region. And after 4 years, we're able to do that, demoing and people supporting, whether we're up in Germantown, Maryland, or here in Charlottesville. There are people saying, okay, you're local, you're small, you're a good, you look like a nice guy. Sometimes I have my daughter with me. I'm telling you, man, it was crazy. We'd be doing some stuff that now, because Whole Foods got bought out by Amazon, there's no way you could do it anymore. There's no way. It's like you hear what's the NPR, how they built this. There's things that there's companies on there that they do that they had to do just to make it. There's certain things it can't be replicated, which I guess means that you have to have a passion and you have to make it work. Every time you're in a business, every season calls for something different. You have to have ingenuity, and it doesn't matter what field it is, whether it's wholesale baking or you're selling pharmaceuticals or whatever. I don't know, but you're gonna have to make it work. There's gonna be an obstacle, and you're gonna have to build relationships, trust in a good product, and then sometimes there are the 70-hour weeks, which sucks, but
it is what it is.
Yeah,
I love this guy. I love this guy here. So, feeling inspired by you here. Let me throw this to you. Serious question, macro national level question. 3 kids, you said.
Yeah.
How did you guys? And I'm a young parent myself, and I ask this question of our guests a lot. How did you guys with your kids? How did you handle the murder of George Floyd?
Wow. Well, obviously the 2 younger ones are 3 and 1, so we didn't have much of a conversation.
But your 12-year-old.
Well, our 12-year-old.
And she's sharp.
She's pretty. Yeah, she is very smart. She asked me questions that I didn't like
have an
answer for at the beginning. Well, why are people protesting? Why are people rioting? And then I had to kind of draw from my own, okay, how do I disseminate this information? What's the filter, And the best way I could put it was, and we had talked about stuff like this before, over a period of time. We had, Mike Turner or, all these other things that were happening in our country. And I'd say, look, sometimes people don't understand that there's not really much of a difference between us. You know what I'm saying? We're all built from the same cloth. We're all created, in my opinion, by a creator, And one thing that has made the difference is these paradigms that people think separate us, like superiority, classism, sexism, racism, and that sometimes people make decisions to fight for those things, which are not really important things. And so when it comes to hate and there's different races or 2 different political structures, we have Republican, Democrat. I've always told her, I said, look, we have to break the aisles. You know what I'm saying? And those things that we think are separating us, we actually might be fighting for the same thing, but we're just calling it something different. You know what I'm saying? We're coming to the same. We want to come to the same conclusion, but we don't have the same paradigm. And so we have to. That's why when I talked to her about the whole George Floyd thing, I said, look, there's a lot of moving parts to it. I said, first off, the police officer, we don't know if it was a hate crime or he was just off his rocker, off his head, as my wife's grandmother would say. But we do know that there were some things that happened before, which would lead us to believe that he did have some sort of issue with. Yeah, he had a history, right? But nonetheless, we say that no matter what, this is a humanity issue. I told her, I said, look, there's people kill people, right? And there's no right to do that. And we have a country with this due process of law, and there's things that we have to mete out by the law that this country set in place. And I've told us that we're blessed to live in a country like this. I've done missions trips to Haiti. We've seen, I grew up with friends that are on the other side of the tracks, and I know that this country does have a dark side, but there's also a lot of blessings to living in this country. And I thought the best thing I can say to her is we have hope that there are always, these are steps. These are steps towards better days, steps towards reform, and steps towards people understanding each other, not for the ideas they think they support, but for who they are. It's just they're people that want the same thing.
That's perfect. You handled that way better than I would have. I wouldn't have been able to answer that in the spot like you did. Do you feel, I'm tying it to Charlottesville. You mentioned that you felt Charlottesville is a great place to launch a business. How about Charlottesville raising a family? What are your thoughts on just Charlottesville? What are your thoughts on Charlottesville and the identity we're searching for, Anwar? Don't you feel like this town is searching for an identity now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I was just thinking about the other day, I don't know who I was talking to. I have a couple friends that are leaders, they're church leaders, they're pastors, and other friends that run businesses. And one thing that a lot of people have thought is Charlottesville has had an identity of like, it's UVA, Thomas Jefferson, and I've had to parse that out myself, because I went to UVA and I loved the school, but then, my wife, she'd say like, my wife is a trip. She'd be the only, she was like the one white girl in all the African American studies classes, you know what I'm saying? And she'd be like, the school was built on slaves and da-da-da, and there slave markers at certain parts where they excavated and said, okay, like, let's memorialize this, let's do it justice. Or after many years, Monticello started to open up the discussion. Okay, well, Thomas Jefferson did have a slave who he had an intimate relationship with. And if you go there now, they'll take you on the tour where there was like a back room. It was a secret room where only he could, so she could sleep in the house, and he had access to that house, and she had access to kind of walk back and forth when they didn't have visitors over. So it was a part of, and so the whole Thomas Jefferson thing is a part of who UVA is, or who Charlottesville is. And if you look at the demographics of who lives here in Charlottesville, there's a lot of people that are descendants of Thomas Jefferson, right? That still live in the area. Whites and blacks. There's some documentary out there where there's like hundreds of people that are related to Thomas Jefferson, white and black. They share the same DNA, And so Charlottesville, I think we've done a good job of grappling with the issue. I think it's not just the UVA's history. I think it's a church history thing too. There's tons of churches here. Thomas Jefferson and Peter Jefferson, his father, helped fund churches built out in Earlysville. You know what I'm saying? So it's also just the discourse of, okay, like what were we complicit with? What were we complacent on? And how do we make it right? It's not, it's not a question of, people need to pay up for somebody else's past. It's more like, okay, everybody is a part of the conversation. Because if we go back far enough, you could even see back in Africa where Africans were enslaving Africans and Muslims were enslaving. You know what I'm saying? The word Slav comes from a derivative of their own word for a white slave. You know what I'm saying? So it's such a big, it's bigger than Charlottesville, but Charlottesville handles it in such a unique way to where there's compassion. I think there's compassion for everybody that's involved in the story, and we're at least listening to what people are saying. We're at least bridging the gap for relationships so that people at least feel like there's a voice. Like 2 years ago, you had a panel of different pastors who were saying, look, the lifeblood of, back in the day, the social scene was the church. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes the evangelical white church didn't step up to the plate and say, look, this is wrong. You know what I'm saying? Or we won't be a part of this. Well, a couple years ago, you had white pastors and black pastors saying, look, there's no difference. We serve the same God, or we serve the same purpose of bringing healing and restoration to our community. Let's do this together. And so they said, look, we're sorry on behalf of our, constituents from before, and let's make it better. And that's all they can do. I think you build relationships, you make it better. And Charlottesville does a good job. I think Charlottesville does a good job of having those tough conversations.
Dude, that was so good. That should be a sizzle reel for tomorrow's show. Let's cut that into a highlight clip and please play that till tomorrow. That was so good. And he's got questions coming in here. Can we go a little bit longer with you?
Yeah.
Okay, so questions coming in. And I had this question, and it's funny, it was put on the feed as well. Two-part question. A, do you see yourself as a leader? And B, the second part of the question is, from my standpoint, and I'm an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. From my standpoint, one of the ways that we can create equality and help solve undoubtedly what we have is this social justice issue, and how we can bridge the wealth gap, Anwar, is empowering our African American community and our Latin community from a business owner and entrepreneurship standpoint. You have a lot of perspective you can offer on this here. We have, if we can do this, then it offers the opportunity for generational wealth. It offers the opportunity to pass down a business. It offers an opportunity to hire within the community, keeping money within the community. It creates assets for leverage, for capital. I'm going to get completely out of your way on this. Two-part question. Anywhere you want to go.
You're throwing out everything. It's so funny. We hadn't even, people watching, we didn't even talk about what, but it's been funny. The maturation of me personally, I felt like I had to grow in character to do what it is I do better. Because we had, as we were growing, we started taking on more employees, and we were trying to figure out how to find the right employees, if we're seasonal, this and that. And so I started reading these books. Jim Collins was one, From Good to Great.
I've read that book. That's a good book.
Yeah, good book. And then some other book is Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
I'm writing that down.
It's Covey. I think it's Covey, if I'm not mistaken, Stephen Covey. And both books, though, just kind of fell into my lap. One was a gift, and then one I kind of just randomly picked up. One of them, The E-Myth, another good book. My wife picked that up. In Charlottesville, they have this little book place.
Yeah,
you can find
I love those.
And they were leadership books. They were kind of how to find the best people for the right spots, and then how to be a good leader. You asked if I see myself as a good leader. The best quality I have is trying to make people better. And I played sports. I played basketball, soccer, and always in a team. A good team is everybody feeds off of each other, and your gifts might be my weaknesses, but together we can make each other stronger. So we were always, my wife and I as entrepreneurs, we were always hiring people that are like type A, on time, orderly people. And if you're the type of person that's always type A, on time, then hire people that are out of the box, abstract. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's your first hire, it's somebody that helps kind of offset your own skill set so that you can kind of forge together doing this one thing, which is highly focused in part. And then I guess the other question actually does feed into it because I think with pouring into my leadership skills, I had mentorship. I mentioned people that were in my life before, but also the SBA or I don't know what we have here in town. But I got paired up with a guy, I can't remember the CIC, I can't remember what the SCORE, that's what it was. And they pair you up with people that might be able to help you. I hit the jackpot with this guy.
Steve Cooper?
No, I do know.
Okay, because he's with SCORE. Okay.
But some other guy, Ray Friedman, I think is his name, and another gentleman. And the guy happened to have experience with working with M&M, Mars bars. Understood how to get into stores, how to have good bottom line, how to talk about having the best ratio, all that stuff for making money off your wholesale product. So I think with the generational thing, I think first off for my family, the reason I do this is not because I love cookies. I mean, I do love my cookies, but the one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to do something with my wife, build a business, have fun doing something we both kind of knew. We were carrying on a family tradition, and then we might have something to pass on to our daughters. And I think the big picture, though, for Charlottesville and beyond is that there are people who have skills, who have giftings, who have experience that you can't buy at Harvard or at Darden, and you have something you can share with other people. Obviously, people have been creating grants, sending a couple $1,000s to small businesses. That helps. But there's something else that's that creates that bridges that generational gap, is actually sharing with people, mentoring with people. Okay, if you do this, this is the best next step. Or if you are in this position, don't take on any more debt. Pay up. You know what I'm saying? Certain things kind of keep you out of hitting those potholes, so to speak. And then when you come up against a giant that seems insurmountable, they say, no. That's a giant that I've seen before, and all you got to do is wait it out. Because if you stick it out long enough, your business model will pay off. So do whatever it is you got to do. Cut your Netflix, cut your cell phone in half. You don't need unlimited data. Pare it down, get lean, and then let your business, spend for itself. Certain little things like that pay off, to where instead of putting $200 into these things that aren't given back to you, you're putting $200 back into your business, and then you're buying more inventory, more sprockets, or whatever it is you're doing. Little things like that I was able to gain. I didn't have to go to Darden for, And so in the end, people, I'll be honest, a lot of people that poured into my life, a lot of them were white. You know what I'm saying? Talk about, giving back to, quote unquote, people who, might have been disadvantaged. I had people pouring into my life that didn't see skin color. They saw the product. They saw my ambition, my passion, whatever it is. They saw me up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, at the markets. And they saw that I wanted something, that I wanted to build something, and that's what they saw. And so over years, I've had people that have been walking alongside me at the right time. There's some people that, we might send a text and say, what's up? But, they're not as, integral to my season of life as they were at that point. But nonetheless, I'm so indebted to other people that took the time to do more than send a text. They sat down, bought me the coffee, and poured over my numbers with me. An hour it goes a long way. Time is money. You know what I'm saying? So mentorship is a form of leadership, and people have showed me how to do. I've learned. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have it all at once, but I've learned. It's been a learning.
I love that. All right, let's close on this. You killed this, guys. Let's close on this, and then we'll talk. We'll get sound from Cindy Schoenberg on Keswick Vineyards in the wedding industry after Anwar Allen here. Let's close on this. A lot of folks watching. We're a positive platform, but we're also a realistic platform, and we're cautious optimists. It's uncertain out there. We have cases spiking Anwar across the country, which is creating more uncertainty, which we know. Are you bullish or are you bearish on Charlottesville? What's your take on Charlottesville the next 12 months or so, and why? The show's yours.
Well, Charlottesville is a very resilient place. I think because of the resource we have here, the people we have here, you can't get a better place. If we're talking about starting a business right now, sort of like stocks, buy. You know what I'm saying? Buy it up. Go, I would say you have time now. It's on your side. You know what I'm saying? You have more time to not be at the office. So if you're going to start a business, do it now. You know what I'm saying? If you have some passionate dream, even if it's artistic, if you want to write a book, do it now. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to get another time like this. You're not going to have an excuse to miss the meeting. And also be with your kids. Go outside. Have normal rhythms. You know what I'm saying? Break the cycle, break the routine of what kept you from doing what it is that you think you were called to do, And so I would say, on top of just C-Ville is the place to do that. Be hopeful, be optimistic in any time and space, because we as humans, this is not the first time we've dealt with something like this. The influenza, all sorts of other things. I think humans were created to be resilient. You know what I'm saying? I think we'll be smart. I give people the elbow when I see you. You know what I'm saying? Wash your hands, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then eat good. And you might catch me at the YMCA still, because we still got to have something that reminds us that, what I'm saying. My wife, we sneak out into the car and watch a little movie.
That's
our date night.
awesome.
So, we got older ones, so just so y'all know. But I just say, don't let what's on the news change your circumstances. Don't let the news drive the way that you see
Thank
the
you.
world. Because yours is you're a good news platform. You're getting good news out.
Thank you.
There.
I know exactly what you mean, man. It's so easy to fall down the trap. And then next thing you know, you're like 15 news articles in and it's all negativity. And you're like, of course this is going to seep into your life.
Right. And so then you're afraid
then you don't go out. And then it just snowballs, and then you're miserable because you haven't left in a week, and you're unhappy because you're inside in a week, and you wonder why you're sad or depressed, or you're gaining weight and haven't seen the sun.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Tell me about it. And it took a while. It did take me a little bit to kind of get my bearings and kind of figure out, okay, I do have to, we do have to have some normalcy. I don't think anything's going to be ever, the same ever again, when something like this happens, but I think we as humans, we have the ingenuity, we'll figure something out. And I think just have hope, keep hope. Don't go into places of despair. That's the best I can do.
That was perfect. You crushed this. We went
Thanks,
33 minutes on a 15-minute interview, and that's because you're so good at this.
Hey, man, this is so fun.
You killed it. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, Alan Scottish Shortbreads. Buy as many of these as possible. Alan Scottish Shortbreads. Go to every grocery store manager you know and say, put them on the damn shelf. Alan Scottish Shortbreads.
And we got the website. That was the funny thing about this series, this time, is we actually, our marketing, our internet and all that stuff wasn't what we wanted.
So you put the time into it.
Yeah, and it caused us to outfit our website. So people were actually ordering from a website.
Congratulations. Thank you for joining us, dude.
Yeah,
It was so fun.
You so much.
You have a good one. Judah Wickhauer, thank you for setting that up. I found that refreshing and inspirational and fun and just what the doctor ordered right now. Anwar Alan Scottish Shortbreads. Upbeat, optimistic, realistic, strong dude. Love that interview right there. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Guys, give it a like and a share on any of these 12 Facebook pages you're watching. Alex Erpy has this message for Anwar. Alex Erpy says, this is incredible. Anwar is nailing it. So inspirational. A lot of people and aspiring entrepreneurs need to hear what Anwar is saying right now. Cindy Shorberg says, they are big time. They've been on QVC. I love their shortbread cookies and am fortunate to offer them to our customers at Keswick Vineyards. Was one of the first businesses to carry them. Anwar, you're getting props from Keswick Vineyards over here. The Virginia shop is watching Anwar. We love carrying Alan Scottish Shortbreads at the Virginia shop. I love it. Give it a like and a share on any of these Facebook pages. All right, let's hear from Cindy. I love Cindy on the show. First of all, Cindy makes the set look better. Very pretty lady. Very easy on the eyes. And then I'm just sitting back and listening to this businesswoman talking about how she's running her business. And Judah, I want to hear sound number 2, the transition with COVID. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I would run through fire for Cindy Shorberg. I'd go out and protect the grapes in the middle of the night if a frost hit eastern Albemarle County. Hells to the yeah. She crushed it. All right, Judah, Cindy Shorberg, sound number 2 on the transition in COVID. Guys, I'm going to cut to the chase. This is what I've seen. I have seen in restaurants, I have seen Wilson Ritchie of the Whiskey Jar and the Bebedero be a leader and how he was one of the first to open safely. Andy McClure at Citizen Burger Bar was one of the first to open at Citizen Burger Bar and then the Biltmore. Can you imagine opening the Biltmore in the UVA corner during COVID? The Biltmore on Ellwood Avenue or the Virginian restaurant? The oldest restaurant in the city of Charlottesville is the Virginian. Can you imagine opening them on the UVA corner? 3-notched. One of the first to open. So I've seen market leaders like McClure and Wilson Ritchie and Scott Roth open their businesses, and others follow suit. I have seen in real estate how Roy Wheeler Realty Company and how Denise Ramey have responded quickly to virtual tours and been market leaders in that sector. And I have seen how Keswick Vineyards, King Family Vineyards is hosting polo, okay, and having food trucks. And Keswick Vineyards has fabulous musicians. So you see in each industry, you see who the leaders are. And I'm not marginalizing anybody, but it's tough to be a leader, okay? The other folks are watching as the first to market does things. And from time to time, first to market can get slaughtered if first to market is not careful, because it's uncharted territory. But what I've seen in Charlottesville is the pioneers in our community, the first to market in our community, the Keswicks, the King families, the Citizens, the Biltmores, the Whiskey Jars, the Roy Wheelers, the Denise Rameys. I've seen them have success. And frankly, I think the community expected it. Judah, let's hear from Cindy. Sound 2 in 3, 2 and 1. So I was talking to one of our clients on the downtown mall, owns a prominent restaurant, and he felt compelled as downtown was reopening to reopen his restaurant because he knew he was a leader in the downtown mall and it was going to attract folks downtown. You guys, similar kind of, influence in the wine space in Virginia. What are your thoughts?
Like I said, Jerry, we are really set up for outdoor stuff. And I think that's where everyone's feeling safe right now. When you're outdoors, you got that air movement. You're not confined. You don't have to worry about the air conditioning. So for us, we have an outdoor bar already. It was very simple to transition into that. The weddings, same thing. We're a tent. So again, we don't have the walls confining our weddings. And I think people will feel more comfortable with that. It's just staying on top of restrooms and cleaning them. So I think it's great with this wedding community and wine community. We're all sharing information. What are you doing? What products are you using? What works? What doesn't work? I'm reaching out to the rental companies right now to find out what they're using to sanitize stuff, because I'm about to have a bunch of people here. I need to figure out what's the quickest way, the most safest way to get it done, because we are going to have weddings back to back to back. So it's just been a learning experience. But when you're in this business, especially if you do event planning, you learn. That's why people hire you, is to handle the oops. A storm's coming in. What do you do? We lose power. What are you going to do? The bride's dress ripped. What do you do? That you're ready. You got to think on your feet, and that's what we're doing right now. We are thinking, wow, we got a new issue, this virus. How do you deal with it? What are we dealing with? How do you keep everyone safe? And when you have that in your background, you're quick to find solutions. Like, okay, it's just another obstacle. Let's just get over their hurdle, but we will, and we all work it out together, and it's fine.
She's great. And that sound, guys, from Cindy Shortbread, Keswick Vineyards, from the Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase, airs Thursdays at 10:15 on the I Love C-Ville Network. Let's do this, Judah. We're 67 minutes in. I have a ton of news left to get to. We'll table sound, the second piece of sound from Cindy to tomorrow's show. I want to get to some comments. Here's an intriguing comment. And this is from Lisa Leslie, who's watching in Crozet. Jerry, I love your show. Thank you for covering the weddings earlier this morning. We've watched my fiance and I back to back. I wanted to let you guys know we've had to change our plans for our wedding. Instead of having the big wedding that I've always wanted, my father and family have been generous enough to use the money for the wedding to allow us to buy our dream home instead. So instead of having my dream wedding, I'm going to get my dream home. It was tough for me to swallow, but it is what it is. We're going to try in 2021 to have a smaller wedding that's much lower in price with just family. So interesting comment right there about the shift from the dream wedding to the dream home. obviously with the payment going to the down payment, most likely. Thank you for sharing that. That was honest. I appreciate that. This is the I Love C-Ville show. Tomorrow is Friday, and on Friday at 10:15 we have the Real Talk. It's an insider's guide to real estate. We have a car report, Charlottesville Albemarle Association of Realtors report to get to, and a number of other items from the real estate world on tomorrow's show. One of the things that's coming to the forefront, COVID-19 is changed. This is, I think, a fairly big topic that's happening. COVID-19 is potentially marginalizing the concept of an open house. And it's not just COVID-19. There was a realtor in Roanoke that had an open house, and she had problems on this open house, and that she was jumped. So the concept of the open house is starting to become potentially an antiquated concept already for safety of the realtor, and then you put something that's already becoming antiquated and you magnify that mindset because of COVID, where people couldn't go into open houses because of COVID, and now you have a concept of a open house potentially maybe going away from real estate. Think about it. We'll cover that topic on Real Talk potentially tomorrow with Keith Smith of the Yes Team Realtors. My name is Jerry Miller. This is the I Love C-Ville show. We will catch you tomorrow. You guys have a good afternoon. I mean, with the Judah, with the open houses, we could easily do like really dynamic virtual tours. And you do a really dynamic virtual tour, that would be like almost as good as in-person open house. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Or would you want to see it?